You gotta fight. Bump, bump for the right. Bump, bump to party. Good morning. It is just past 8 here in the heart of the Midwest, Boone County, Missouri, USA. This is University week number 11. I'm Zach Berman, fighting a bit of a cold, but, we fight every day. I don't know why I'm just oddly motivational this morning. The big board debuts today, and I'm coming off a week where I sent Henry my picks on my way to Athens last week to call Missouri and Georgia in a game that was not much of a game at all. But guess what? I happened to predict 2 mega upsets last week. And I'll go back through them because I was pretty proud of myself, not going to lie. But I did pick North Carolina to beat Wake Forest. I did pick Purdue to beat Michigan State. I was wrong about Kentucky beating Tennessee. Tennessee was favored in that game for a reason. Indiana did not cover. Alabama did not cover. Ohio State did not cover. But I had the nice big picks right. I had my splash page picks. Well, now you just pull up the receipts. See, Henry was in Ann Arbor. And first of all, shout out to Henry. It's his 1-year anniversary with uSTADIUM. Looking forward to many more, my friend. And with that, we roll with these picks. Actually, Dewey, let's start with the game that I think, there you go. Game that I think is going to be a little bit closer than people expect. I think Georgia gets their first real scare this weekend against Tennessee. Tennessee can put up points. That is not debatable. The problem is when you look at an offense like Josh Heupel's, they work fast. And when I say they work fast, if you go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and Georgia goes touchdown, 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 this game is over in the blink of an eye. So it's a tough game to pick. I think Georgia wins. Don't be surprised if Tennessee sticks around for a little bit. So I will take Georgia. I am predicting them to finish their SEC slate undefeated. 8-0 in the conference. Like I said, I am battling a little bit of a cold, and my voice is going to go in and out. So we're going to continue to roll here, and that brings me to my first pick, and I'm sure Henry's got all this proof right here. Number 2 team in the best brand of cough drops, it is Ludens. I don't have Ludens on me. That's a shame. I'm going to begin with an angry Michigan State team. I don't know why they were picked over. I don't know why Michigan was picked over them in the college football playoff rankings, especially considering that Michigan lost to Michigan State. I think Michigan State comes out mad, and such is the case, I do have Sparty covering as 12-point favorites against the hapless Terrapins of Maryland. Sticking in the Big Ten, the spoiler makers are at it again. I am a huge fan of Purdue. I don't think they win the game. They have Ohio State today. Purdue is ranked. They're ranked number 19. Ohio State is favored by 21. I think Purdue's offense can put up points. I don't think that Ohio State's going to lose the game. It's in Columbus. But I think Aiden O'Connell and David Bell are more than dangerous enough to make sure that the Boilermakers do, in fact, cover. The spread that's gone down to 20.5. It was 21 as of yesterday morning. But give me the Boilermakers to cover. Oklahoma State. Yes, well, there you go. They had their tune-up game against Kansas last week. I think TCU is due for a letdown after beating Baylor. I think the Pokes will cover their minus 12 against Texas Christian. And last but not least, I think Oregon is due for a bit of a letdown game. I don't think they lose, but I am picking Washington State to cover the plus 14. That game late tonight. As for my head-to-heads, notice I'm getting this out of the way quickly because I want to get straight to the good stuff of the big board. I got upsets, and a lot of them. Where do we begin? I have Virginia upsetting Notre Dame tonight in Charlottesville. I think Notre Dame is due for a stinker. Virginia is flown under the radar a little bit. They're 6-3. They have a heck of a quarterback in Brennan Armstrong. Their offense can put up points on points on points. Notre Dame only favored by 6.5. Give me the Cavaliers in a close upset. Maybe a field goal at the end of the game. The marquee game of the week is A&M and Ole Miss. And I know game day's back in Oxford for the first time since the Katy Perry incident. That's great. I still think A&M is a better team than their record shows. They've lost to a team that was ranked last week and a team that was ranked this week. And I do think they go on the road, and they are slight favorites against the Rebels. As of right now, 8:10 this morning, Central Standard Time, A&M's favored by 2.5. I do think that A&M pulls it out on the road against Ole Miss. Give me the Aggies to keep their SEC West Championship hopes alive. Going back to upsets, Oklahoma has lived on the edge for quite a bit now. I think this is the weekend where it finally bites them. Baylor's going to come out mad after losing to TCU. So I do have, and Oklahoma's favored by 4.5 in this one. I got on the banks of the Brazos River in Waco, Texas. I have the Baylor Bears upsetting the Oklahoma Sooners. OU's 9-0 record, their undefeated season will come to an end in Waco tonight, or that's actually today. And last but not least, I think Wake Forest is going to have another sticker. 16 versus number 12 on the ACC network. What is ESPN doing? Wake Forest is favored by 2. Give me NC State on the road in Winston-Salem tonight. All right. Let me go through the rest of my ranked games, and then we'll get straight to the good stuff. Michigan wins over Penn State close, but I do think Michigan covers the 1.5. Does Alabama cover against New Mexico State? Spoiler alert, yes, they do. New Mexico State's 1-8. Bama almost lost to LSU last week, but I think Alabama's going to come up mad, like ticked off. Like you typically see Saban teams after losses or close wins come out and take their anger out, and whoever's matched up after them. Yeah, sorry, New Mexico State. You're no match. Auburn, number 17, they lost last week. Texas A&M, I think Mississippi State pulls it out on the road. Auburn's favored by 4.5. Mississippi State, give me clang of the cowbell in an upset. In a game that is going to be absolutely terrible. I think Wisconsin does defeat Northwestern. I don't know if Wisconsin covers a 24.5. I don't know if Wisconsin is capable of scoring 24.5. So mark that down as a maybe. Utah and Arizona, the Utes roll. Favored by 24. I think Utah covers. Minnesota and Iowa. Why is Iowa still ranked? I don't know. Give me the Golden Gophers in the road. Let's make it easy. UTSA versus Southern Miss. The Roadrunners ranked. Finally, Henry wasn't on to produce Tuesday night. We finally have our wish. The Roadrunners are ranked 23rd. Southern Miss is 1-8. UTSA favored by 33. And the Roadrunners, also known as Chaparral Birds or Chaparral Cocks, cover the 33-point favorites. Already went through Maryland, Michigan State. Arkansas and LSU. Razorbacks are favored by 3. I think that's ripe for an upset, so I could see LSU pulling that off on their home turf. Nevada, San Diego State. That's a good game. That is a really good game. San Diego State favored by 3. I'm going to roll with the Wolfpack. I think Carson Strong has that game, or he goes out and just says, here, I'm a first-round quarterback prospect. This is what you're going to get out of me. And he's going to go on the road and deliver. All right. It is the moment you've all been waiting for. It is time to debut. Drum roll, please, my top 25. The first Berman's Big Board coming at you live. Let's start it off with a bang. You already know who my number 1 is. I think number 2 might surprise you. Number 1 is, of course, Kayvon Thibodeau, the talented edge rusher out of the University of Oregon. He's been injured a little bit this season. We haven't seen him play to his full potential. But when he's been healthy, when he's been on the field, he's shown exactly what he's capable of doing. He's an NFL caliber prospect. I'd say he's somewhere along the lines of a Jadeveon Clowney or a Bosa brother. He's not quite at that Chase Young level yet. Do I still think he can be a franchise-changing talent? Absolutely. But for now, in what might be considered a weak draft class in terms of most of the positions that really are valued by NFL teams, cough, quarterbacks. If you're in the need of an edge rusher or a cornerback or an offensive lineman, this is a good draft for you. Don't get me wrong. It is not a good QB draft. I'll get to that in a second. My number 2 on my big board, and this is a little bit of a surprise, someone whose horn I have tooted ever since I started with this show, and that would be the talented, hulking Greek freak, as some like to call him, out of the University of Purdue, George Karlaftas. And let me pull up his actual name, because his actual name is not George Karlaftas. Hold up. His real name is Yoros Matthew Karlaftas. He was born in Athens, Greece, and moved to the United States when he was 13 years old. He moved to West Lafayette, and what a stroke of luck for Purdue to have this guy just get dropped in their backyard. His younger brother is also committed to Purdue as well. His younger brother is named Yanni, which might be the most Greek name I've ever heard, Yanni Karlaftas. But when he was a high school athlete, he played football, track and field, basketball, and water polo, which he played with the Greek national team. This guy's a ridiculous athlete. He reminds me of a TJ Watt kind of hulking figure that's also got speed that kills off the edge. He is going to torture NFL offensive lines for a long time. Dare I say, even though Thibodeau is my number 1, do not be surprised 5 or 6 years down the line if Karlaftas has the better career. Henry, you play water polo? Wow. Number 3, this guy's a bit of a unicorn in the sense that we haven't really seen a player like him. And that would be Kyle Hamilton, the athletic, rangy safety out of Notre Dame. Dude can line up anywhere on the field. He's ridiculously fast. He can hit like a freight train. He's a scout's dream, an offensive coordinator's nightmare. He is what scouts were saying, draft analysts were saying Isaiah Simmons was a couple of years back. And, of course, Isaiah Simmons hasn't really panned out. But everybody was in love with him coming out of college when he came out of Clemson because he was a unicorn. We've never seen a guy. He's positionless. That doesn't really work in the NFL. Kyle Hamilton, he clearly has a position. His strong suit is at safety. You can plug him elsewhere on the field. I don't think we're going to see NFL GMs or NFL coaches try and do that. I think he's a more athletic, rangier version of Jamal Adams. And if you're an NFL head coach, you're thinking to yourself, well, in that case, yeah, we would like a guy like Kyle Hamilton. Number 5, and this just speaks to, or number 4, this just speaks to how crazy of an edge rusher class this is. In what other class is Aiden Hutchinson the number 3 edge rusher off the board? Well, he is in this one. The talented, big, strong ridiculously athletic edge rusher out of the University of Michigan, makes up one of the best pass rushing duos in college football. He's going to be ridiculously good, folks. These top 3 edge rushers are all going to be great. Now, who do I think is the highest potential? I think it's Karlaftas, but I will agree to disagree on that. Number 5, he's been hurt, but I still see all the potential. I think all these NFL GMs see his potential as well. One of the most athletic cornerbacks we've ever seen. That's Derek Stingley out of LSU. He's a true lockdown guy, the first cornerback in years that I think really deserves to be picked, where a guy like Jeff Okudah was picked. Why was Jeff Okudah picked 3rd? Goodness gracious, Detroit, what are you doing? I can't stick with that, but I can sympathize with anybody that would pick Stingley early. He's an athletic freak, rangy, tall. He can jump with the best of them. He's going to give receivers nightmares for years to come in the NFL. First offensive lineman off the board here at number 6, that would be Evan Neal, tackle out of Alabama. Think of a faster, more athletic version of Mekhi Becton, and that's what you're getting out of Neal, especially because he also has that Nick Saban conditioning. He's played against the best of the best. And now here's where my run on offensive lineman goes. Number 7, that'd be Kenyan Green out of Texas A&M. Probably the best guard to come out of the NFL draft since maybe Quentin Nelson. This guy's really good. He's got exactly what, as an NFL scout, you'd like to see in a guard. He's consistent, doesn't screw up, and he plays against the best of the best as really the guy in Texas A&M. He could play tackle as well. So Green is just about as versatile as it gets. Probably the best center we have seen come out of the NFL draft in years. Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa, clocking in at number 8. Yeah, I know you probably don't want to pick a center that high, except if Tyler Linderbaum is your guy. He just doesn't do anything wrong. And we have seen, I am a Giants fan. I understand what it looks like to not have a good center anchoring your offensive line. And there are definitely center-needy teams. Linderbaum can play guard. He's best slotted as a center. But he's good enough where I believe he can crack my top 10. Clocking in at number 9, that would be Chris Olave, the best receiver in the class. He's not at the level of a Jamar Chase. He's not at the level of a Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith. He is, though, I would compare him to a Keenan Allen, Allen Robinson, kind of guy that is just smooth operator, does everything consistently well, runs routes well, doesn't drop the ball, has good hands. I think he's a little bit better than his teammate Garrett Wilson, who's going to clock in right behind him at number 10 to round out the top 10. Speedy, your big play threat, definitely a useful weapon. I think Olave is the better, more polished receiver. Both of them have superstar potential in the NFL. Another offensive tackle, a name that's probably been shooting up rankings as of late, that's Charles Cross, a tackle out of Mississippi State. He's really good. And speaking of big maulers, or as Dave Gettleman likes to say, hog mollies, Akem Ikonwu out of North Carolina State, another tackle. He can also play interior offensive line, clocks in number 12 on my rankings. Number 13, here's a guy that can shoot up the rankings quickly, and he's still got a lot of room left to do just that. Jordan Davis, a defensive tackle out of University of Georgia. He's my Heisman favorite right now. Yeah, I'm going to say that right now. I think Jordan Davis is going to win the Heisman if he keeps this season up. He has been the best defensive tackle we have seen in college football since Ndamukong Suh. Like, he is just a giant. I watched him play in person last week. This dude is fast. He's stupidly fast for someone his size. It's almost tough to fathom how huge this guy is and how quick he can run. And I know I'm shutting off my camera because for whatever reason, my laptop battery just decided to dip out. We're still rolling here. But like I was saying, Jordan Davis, almost unnaturally rangy for a dude of his stature. Someone that maybe, I'm not going to say his name yet. Maybe he can be used as an Aaron Donald level defensive tackle threat that can just torture opposing offensive lines. Aaron Donald has reinvented the game of football, how teams have to scheme and block. Can Jordan Davis do that? I don't know, considering Aaron Donald is probably the best defensive player we have seen in the NFL since Lawrence Taylor, but he's close. And he's much closer than some people would like to admit. His teammate, one of the best linebacker prospects we've seen come out of the draft in years, right behind him at number 14, Nakobe Dean, another riser. Now, you might be wondering, hey, where's the first quarterback in the class going to drop? He's right here at number 15. It's Matt Corral. I'm not super high on any of these quarterbacks. Sure, could one or two of them be really good? Yeah, absolutely. But I just don't see any superstar potential out of these QBs. Obviously, there's going to be teams that are needy and desperate that have to trade up and get one or have to draft one because ownership maybe wants them to do so. But I can't. I can't in my best judgment say, well, you have to draft a quarterback this year. Quarterback needy teams, you might want to be better waiting off a year, holding off, maybe even tanking another year for a guy like Bryce Young. But I do have Matt Corral at 15. I think he's the best of a bad bunch. Here's a guy that's fallen a little bit, especially at the rise of Jordan Elliott. That would be Marvin Leal out of Texas A&M as a defensive tackle. He can also play edge. Definitely another huge guy that moves way faster for someone his size than anybody his size should be able to. He's had a little bit of a tough season. He's definitely been overshadowed by Jordan Davis. I still think he's going to be very good in the NFL. And continuing on with the SEC, because we've had a streak of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight SEC guys clocking with Kaiir Elam, cornerback out of Florida, another lockdown guy. If you need secondary help, this is a really, really, really good draft class to get it. Linebacker help as well. Devin Lloyd, a guy that is going to rise up boards fast. I could see him getting picked higher than most people expect. Maybe a Zaven Collins or a what was it? Why am I blanking on who did Washington pick last year? The linebacker. Oh my goodness. Why in the world is his name escaping me right now? Who was Washington's first round pick? A linebacker out of Kentucky. I should not be blanking on his name. Jamin Davis. He reminds me a lot of a Jamin Davis, a guy that's going to shoot up draft boards maybe right around scouting combine time, March, February. People are going to talk themselves into drafting this guy. Drake London. He's out with an ankle injury out of USC. Another good receiver. I think he has the biggest superstar potential out of any of these receivers in this class. But he's shown to be a little injury prone, so maybe that holds him back a little bit. And number 20, Trent McDuffie, the cornerback out of Washington. Number 21, Andrew Booth, cornerback out of Clemson. Number 22, Sauce Gardner, cornerback out of Cincinnati. Are you noticing a trend here? If you need help on your back end of your defense, this draft is the one to get it. McDuffie, Booth, and Gardner, all phenomenal cornerbacks. Guys that can really help lock down opposing receivers. Speaking of good receivers, Treylon Burks clocks in at number 23. Reminds me a lot of Dez Bryant with how he plays. Would definitely be a good fit for a team, maybe like the Cowboys that could use it, that could lose a guy like Michael Gallup to free agency this offseason. My next quarterback, I think the best quarterback in this class. Not my number one right now based on performance, but I still think the best guy in terms of if you're looking for a franchise NFL QB, you're going to get it from Kenny Pickett, the pride of Ocean Township, New Jersey. At the University of Pittsburgh, he clocks in at number 24 on my list. I think that he's going to be very good. And last but not least, a really, really good tight end. Probably the best non-Kyle Pitts tight end we've seen in a while. And Jalen Weidermeyer out of Texas A&M. He's going to rise up people's boards as well. Like I said, he's no Kyle Pitts. He's still very, very good. Now, I think the most shocking thing for me is the three quarterbacks that everybody had talked about coming into this season. Sam Howell at North Carolina, Malik Willis at Liberty, and Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma. All three of them have not shown up in the way that any of them were expected to do so. Spencer Rattler went from probably the consensus first overall pick to a guy that might not even be drafted this year. He might have to transfer and try and raise his stock back up because he was benched for Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams might be another guy down the line that I really think could become a franchise NFL QB. But you look at Willis, Rattler, and Howell, and none of them have really taken that next step that these NFL teams that are so quarterback needy would have needed them to. So if you're looking for a QB, I'm sorry, your princess is in another castle. And with that concludes my big board. I'll have another one over Thanksgiving break, and it's going to be a little bit more comprehensive. I'll get a little bit more in terms of in-depth. My buddy Jonathan Lidskin, who's been on a couple of these streams, he is dealing with the nasty, nasty effects of his booster shot side effects. So in honor of him, uNIVERSITY is not just about college football. We're going to get into some hoops. And yeah, I'm going to take this in a completely different direction because I was a sucker that stayed up to watch that overtime game between number 4 Villanova and number 2 UCLA. Yeah, we're getting into hoops. We sleep in May, per the great John Rothstein. And UCLA came back into a raucous Pauley Pavilion, knocked off the number 4 team in the land, Villanova. Just a note, why is a number 4 versus number 2 game starting at 11:30 at night? That's terrible. Like, you want to have an audience for these games, don't start them at 11:30 at night. But a lot of people stayed up, and it was worth the wait as UCLA clawed back. Cronin's team has returned almost all of their starters, and Johnny Juzang dropping 25 points, picking up right where he left off. I got to say, UCLA, they remind me a lot of a team like last year's Illinois, where they're just going to steamroll through the regular season, but I could see them losing in the Sweet 16 or the round of 32. So you can mark that down as my first crazy take of the college basketball season. UCLA is not going to get to the Elite Eight. Liddy, I know you're in bed right now, and like I described my booster, I felt like I was run over by a bulldozer, but you're probably sitting there thinking, what in the world, what in the planet is he talking about? I don't think UCLA gets further than the Sweet 16. That's just me. I'm not sure if Villanova does either, but let's go through the rest of these scores real fast. Number 13, Oregon knocks off a good SMU team. Well, a little bit of concern in Chapel Hill as number 19, North Carolina, let up 87 points from Ivy League Brown. What in the world? I don't think that was supposed to happen, UNC. I really don't think that was supposed to happen. And UNC, of course, coming in with a new coach in Hubert Davis after Roy Williams announced his retirement. A little bit of concern for the Tar Heels. Illinois continuing where they left off. They were ranked number 11. They knock off Arkansas State 92-53. Baylor beats Incarnate Word 87-60, the defending champs. Off to another good start. My team crush of the year is the Purdue Boilermakers, and they knocked off Indiana State 92-67. Auburn beats Louisiana Monroe 93-65. Houston over Rice 79-46. Alabama outlasts South Dakota State 104-88. KU beats Tarleton 88-62. Virginia knocks off Radford 73-52. Ohio State beats Niagara 84-74. Kentucky over Robert Morris. Army over Duke. There are some good games today. Texas and Gonzaga late tonight. Where is that game? Is that in Spokane? Yes, it is. Oh boy. 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, ESPN2. Why are they putting these games so late? I get they're on the West Coast, but my goodness. Chris Beard's Longhorns against Mark Few's Gonzaga Bulldogs. That is a classic matchup. One worth staying up for and watching tonight. Sunday, the Sunshine Showdown, Florida State and Florida. That should be fun. And you get into some of these other games late next week on Thanksgiving. North Carolina, Purdue. That's going to be taking place, I believe, I want to say at Mohegan Sun in Uncasville, Connecticut. How about that? Villanova, Tennessee also in that tournament. Man, some of these early season games really, really stacked. I will actually be working the Jacksonville Classic, which is going to feature Missouri, Florida State, Loyola Marymount, and SMU. But to sum things up, college sports have really hit their stride as of late. What do I think the rankings are going to look like next week? Well, we know Georgia's going to be 1. Bama's going to be 2. I think Oregon pulls it out, stays at 3. I think Ohio State's going to drop. I really think they might either lose or at least not cover. So that's the one to watch out for, is that Ohio State-Purdue game. Oh, I almost forgot to mention Cincinnati, Outlast South Florida. Oh, Vapnik. Yes, shout out Liddy. Liddy, I hope you're feeling better. Take Tylenol. It works. Actually, I think it was Advil for me that helped me through my ridiculous side effects. Cincy knocks off South Florida 45-28. Cincy is not winning impressive, and they need to step up their game in that regard because they're already playing with a bit of a deficit because of their conference. And although if they continue winning and one of these Ohio States or these Oregons gets knocked off in between now and then, Cincy is almost certainly going to take that next spot up. But they need to start winning more impressive. You look at their schedule going down the line. After this week, they have SMU next week, do they have SMU next week or is that 2 weeks from now? I believe that is next. No, it is next week. I am not fooling myself. SMU is next week. That is in Cincinnati, 7-2 versus 10-0. They could get upset there. So look out for that. The SMU Broncos could play spoiler and then some, but should Cincinnati survive SMU, the Bearcats are slated to finish off against East Carolina before the AAC championship game, probably against Houston. But until then, I will be back with y'all Tuesday night to recap the college football playoff rankings. I'm expecting them to be interesting once again if I'm basing it off of what we've seen so far this season. Why is Michigan only 1.5-point favorites? Penn State's a tough place to play. And they're doing a helmet stripe out, which is basically code word for we're having another whiteout. So it's going to be loud and crazy, and Penn State's got nothing to play for but pride, but I think they're going to really, really, really bring their all. I think Michigan wins, but yeah, I could see the Wolverines covering, considering the spread is what it is. But don't be surprised if Penn State pulls the upset. Like, it's not something that I would just be like, oh my goodness, Michigan lost. That's not something that freaks me out. So with that, we are going to call it a day. Until then, I will see you Tuesday night for the rankings. If you have any other questions, my @ on Twitter is BermanZBB. Make sure to ask me any of your betting questions for the day. Have fun. Download the app. Subscribe to us on YouTube. See you on Tuesday.